You share in the book your wife's diagnosis with Cushing's syndrome and how that was a turning point. How did that personal experience shape your research and your perspective on stress and hormone health?
Absolutely. And just to be clear, I started Rebalance Health about a year to 18 months before my wife's diagnosis. We had no clue. So from previous companies, there was always an interest in endocrinology. We've been fascinated with testosterone, with HGH, and all the different peptides that were associated with hormone production that were very prominent in the world, and especially in the 90s and early 2000s and heading towards where we are today. But really around 2019, the government, FDA, reclassified almost every single peptide as a biologic. So not suitable for human consumption. And that just further kind of caused our curiosity to look into more endocrinology and hormone productions and kind of the channels and the routes and what was going on in the body and the effects. The world was kind of just going crazy pre-COVID with CJC, IPA morella, and all these other kind of peptides that people were taking to try and find the fountain of youth. And we were kind of interested in that as a business. And so we started looking at peptides, and obviously during the middle of our research, the government changed their stance and position on that. But cortisol really stuck out to us as a very interesting hormone, and we decided to dive deep into that particular hormone and how we can support it. We knew if we were a drug, and we've developed drugs before in our company's history, it would take too long to come to market. And with COVID on the rise, everyone was stressing out and everyone was having a tough time getting to sleep, and there was a lot of panic and urgency around the world. And so we really focused on cortisol and how we can improve people's health, wellness, and sleep. And really, cortisol led me down a path that I had no idea I was going down. And we decided to figure out a formulation to support the human body and the entire endocrine system, but based on cortisol. And I wanted it to be a supplement. We know that basically a subcutaneous injection is the best route, but it's a drug. And the second best that wouldn't be considered potentially a drug is a nasal spray or a lozenge. And so we're like, hey, we'll do a lozenge. Not many people like spraying things up their nose. It's not comfortable and so forth. So we'll do that. And then we really looked at all the existing herbs and roots that have been around for centuries in lots of different cultures. So we looked at Ayurvedic and we looked at Chinese medicine, and we decided to come up with kind of a Western delivery method through a lozenge. And we put the ingredients together with the support of lots of doctors, and we used things like bacopa, ashwagandha, cordyceps mushrooms. Literally, we've got 21 different ingredients in our formulations. And then we tested it. And as we were testing it, my wife got diagnosed with high levels of cortisol to the point where she was diagnosed with Cushing's. And it got real serious for her. Within a few months, she was losing a significant amount of weight, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, had no energy. And at one point, I thought I was going to lose her. So it became very real for me. And so it's kind of delusional. I was like, I can save her. I can do this. I'm already researching this. I understand this. I can figure this out. And because of that kind of love and passion for my wife and my kind of already existing interest in cortisol and going through that path, I just worked harder and focused, learned more, and was maniacal for not cutting corners. I didn't compromise quality of ingredients. I didn't compromise testing. We tested our product like almost probably no other supplement company ever has. We treated our supplements like a pharmaceutical, and we did IRB clinical studies, blind, double blind, open label, all various different studies to actually test the final product, not just the ingredients, the actual final product, to see, does it work and what does it do? And the outcome was fantastic. We've got published in multiple medical journals, peer-reviewed, evaluated, and even one of our studies was invited to present at the North American Menopause Society because we inadvertently stumbled upon a solution to reduce perimenopausal symptoms. And we actually have data and a clinical study and now a double-blind clinical study proving that we can reduce perimenopausal hot flashes and other symptoms by greater than 80%.
Do you realize what you're talking about is not the way you're supposed to operate as a supplement company?
I know, it's an oxymoron, isn't it? We actually found something that works, and it's not really illogical when you look at it.
Right.
If we are all operating at high levels of stress, we're sleep deprived. If we're sleep deprived, we're not making the hormones. So if you're going through perimenopause or you're going through andropause for men, right, you are making less of the hormones you need to function. And so if you're making less estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, well, guess what? All your symptoms are going to be exacerbated. It's kind of common sense, right? And so it's not an alternative to other solutions like HRT, which I'm a big proponent of, but HRT doesn't address cortisol. HRT does not address stress, right? And if you are not getting the right sleep, you're going to have more symptoms. And for men, it's the same. And I'm not trying to say, men have it too and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, women have it horrific. I've actually put myself through the equivalent of perimenopause for about a month, just as an experiment by taking my personal estrogen levels down to 0. And I was having hot flashes every 20 to 30 minutes. And I lasted about a month, and I was like, there's no way that I could survive this for 7 to 14 years like women do. And so the empathy and the acknowledgement of what women are going through is very real at Rebalance Health. And so men have the same issues, right? Between mid-30s and 70, men have a huge decline in testosterone and HGH, just like women, right? And men had estrogen as well. And when it drops, men gain weight, they lose their hair, they can't keep muscle mass on, they have a hard time falling asleep, they get moody, they're snappy, but at maybe a fraction of 0.5% of what women go through, right? And so if you have ever been in bed and you've been a little hot, you throw the covers off yourself, gentlemen, you've had a hot flash. Simple as that, right?
Yeah.
It's like you had a little moment where your body temperature rose and you need to cool down, and so you threw the covers off and you were able to fall asleep. Now imagine that you threw the covers off and there was no way that you could cool down and you can't get to sleep. And that's what women are going through, as just one example of literally dozens I could provide. And so at the end of the day, we found out by focusing on cortisol that really we're a cortisol sleep company, because if we can get our cortisol in a regular pattern, which is high in the morning, lower in the afternoon, and as low as possible at night, you can fall asleep and stay asleep. And guess what? You wake up the next day and you feel amazing. But if you do the opposite, which is, like you said, up, down, up, down, up, down throughout the day, and you end up here at the high point, you can't fall asleep. You have a tough time staying asleep. You wake up multiple times during the evening. The next day, you don't feel great. And if you have so many consecutive nights like that, you're on a hormone downward spiral. And you're going to feel really bad.
Yeah, and that's been the path I've been on. I have not had cortisol tested, but I am certain that my cortisol levels are more consistently higher than they should be, just because of the way I'm sleeping or not sleeping. And I do track like my heart rate variability, and my scores are generally lower. And especially we started talking a little bit before we started recording about my sleep apnea, and I've been on a CPAP machine for about 6 weeks now, and my sleep is worse. And it's not helping my restorative sleep at all. And so I got to fix my cortisol. And, we talk a lot about hormone replacement therapy on the podcast, and I talk about it in my classes and stuff. And, we have men like my age and, even a little bit younger that start thinking about hormone replacement therapy, and they're trying to get their testosterone levels up. But if cortisol is up as well, you can keep raising your testosterone levels, but it's that testosterone to cortisol ratio that is most important that we don't talk about. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm a big proponent of HRT. There's a point in your life where you're making less hormones. And the way that we live our lives today, we're selfish. We want to live like we did when we were in our 20s and our 30s, and we're in our 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? And people are doing it successfully. But you need to augment your hormones to do that in order to help your body repair, regenerate, and refresh for the next day. And I get concerned with some doctors, the way that they go about testing hormones or doing it. And I kind of equate HRT to the new Botox. In the 90s, everyone did it, right? And it doesn't matter what doctor, whether you were a specialist in plastics or dermatology, you could be a GP and all of a sudden you were doing Botox, right? And people may have special training. I won't get into that debate. But essentially, HRT's become the new Botox. Everyone's doing it because it's the trendy thing. Everyone's asking for it. And doctors are saying, yeah, you need to be on it. But are they truly monitoring and doing the correct tests beforehand, like a complete hormone panel beforehand? Are we talking about lifestyle choices? Because let's be honest, you could have as much testosterone in your body as you desire, but if you're eating badly, not exercising, sitting on the couch, eating bonbons, it ain't going to do anything for you. Okay, so there's lifestyle choices that have to go involved. Sleep hygiene has to be taken into equation. But to your point, everyone is different. And so a doctor saying you need to be at 600 is just fundamentally wrong. It's
right.
fundamentally wrong because your hormone ratios are unique to you. And there's men that I know that function fabulously at 500 and men that operate horrifically at 1200. Right? It doesn't mean more is better. It's what makes you feel the best version of you. And so that's why when you go to good doctors that do HRT, they do full hormone panels. They ask you a bunch of questions immediately after because the blood work doesn't say everything, right? How do you feel? How are you sleeping? How's your libido? How's your skin? How's your weight? How's your muscle mass? How's your mood, right? And if you reply in a way where the doctor says, I think we should try you on HRT and I think you should try at this dosage, great. But I want you to come back in 90 days and I want you to do it all over again. So we take another blood draw and we compare and contrast the information. Yes, this is higher. This is higher. This is lower. But tell me, how are you feeling? How are you sleeping? How's your energy level? How's your mood? How's your libido? And with that information, the doctor is able to make an adjustment. Well, I think we should try a different relationship with HRT, try this combination or that combination until it's dialed in. And from that experience, which most people that have gone to good doctors to get HRT have experienced, you begin to realize that HRT is one big giant experiment, one human at a time. And there's no one size fits all. And if you understand that, you're already winning, right? The next step is lifestyle. And the older we get, my experience is the more entitled we are. And we're entitled because we're like, oh, I've had a hard time. I deserve that glass of wine. Oh, I'm going to have that cheat meal. I'm going to do this, right? I've deserved it, right? You feel entitled because you're older, you've accomplished it, and you can do X. When the exact opposite should be true. You're working against your biological clock in regards to hormone production. The older you get, the less you make. And so you have to preserve your sleep and your hormone production in order to optimize your wellness for the rest of your life, which means, yes, we eat earlier because guess what? I'm 50. If I eat at 8 o'clock at night and drink a ton of water, I'm going to wake up in the night to go to the bathroom. It's nothing that I can biohack myself out of, I'm afraid. I can't do anything to change that. So I eat earlier. I try and consume my water earlier on in the day. I work out first thing in the morning. Why? As soon as you work out, your cortisol raises. So why would you work out in the evening and then go to bed 2 hours later? You won't fall asleep and stay asleep. And so there's realism around how our bodies work in order to optimize our wellness. So there's certain aspects of our life that we have to really be maniacal for. And mine is protecting my sleep. I wake up early in the morning, I work out, I have my breakfast, I don't have lunch, I have early dinner around 4:30. I don't watch TV, I don't pick up my phone 2 hours before bed. I'm in an infrared sauna, I go for a light walk, I just take it easy and I bring myself down. So when I go to bed, I pass out and I stay asleep. But I do it with the support, shameless plug, of Rebalance Health supplements as well, because they are designed to help keep my cortisol in normal ranges and help me throughout the day. And a good night's sleep starts the moment you wake up. It doesn't start an hour or two before you go to bed.
And that's one of those challenges, too, that if you don't get a good night's sleep to get up and be able to exercise, 'cause I can get up at 4:30. I'm up every day, probably 4:30. I'm having a harder time kind of getting up and working out in the morning just because those sleep scores are not where they should be. And I end up working out in the afternoon because I have to. I got to get it done. But I really prefer to be in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so I am actually really looking forward to trying your Rebalance Health. I've already ordered my dream package, and that I was hoping would come before we actually had the conversation, but it'll probably come today. But I think I ordered it last Wednesday.
I'm happy to send you what you'd like, but I'd recommend Man Mints for you. It's our Man Mint product. It's a lozenge. I'm sucking on them now. And the reason why it's better off as a system is simply because you are controlling your cortisol throughout the day. So something can happen today. The podcast could forget to record, your wife could call, something should happen, the kids have done something silly, and your cortisol spikes. And it might take longer for it to calm down. But then it's throughout the day, it's always happening. So the lozenges throughout the day help keep your cortisol in kind of a regular but healthy pattern, right? And at night, it just keeps going so that once you actually fall asleep, the ingredients in the dream help you continue to support your cortisol and help you sleep and support your other hormones with L-theanine and all these other wonderful ingredients that we put inside of the product. And so the idea is that it is a 24/7 supporting platform because your cortisol isn't a one pill a day. Right. There's something that most supplement companies forget, which is your metabolism. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or most people do, because you burn off whatever you put inside of it every 4 to 6 hours. So how can you possibly take one lozenge in the morning for cortisol and have it expect to work for you at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? It's been 7 hours. You don't have any of those ingredients left in your body. And so the whole premise behind the rebalance systems are that you take them throughout the day. So I'm taking the Man Mints right now, and I'll take 1 or 2 this morning, I'll take 1 or 2 this afternoon, and maybe another late afternoon. And then I will take the Dream before I go to bed. And that is helping keep my cortisol in the normal ranges versus being elevated or dropping and then elevated and dropping. It's very important to stay consistent so that I'm able to fall asleep quickly and stay asleep. Otherwise, I got to turn this off. This thing's going all the time. I have to turn that off. And so there's a process associated with it. And Rebalance has probably one of the only supplement companies that's now got 4 clinical studies, IRB studies, and published, proving the science. It's not just we think it works or we're going to say the right thing. It's like we actually can make claims because we've done the clinicals. We've actually done the work. And we're talking hundreds of subjects in the clinicals, not just 1 or 2. Okay, so we've got real studies, real information. And to be invited to present at the largest organization for menopause, for example, is a huge honor, right? Huge honor because they felt the science was that valid.